Today, I'm going to be speaking with Miles Lagoze, who's a U.S. Marine veteran and also author of the book Whistles from the Graveyard: My Time Behind the Camera on War, Rage, and Restless Youth in Afghanistan. Miles, really great having you on. I think maybe just to start with, before we get into your time as a combat photographer, what made you join the Marine Corps to begin with? Were you going in to be a photographer? What was the catalyst that made you want to join?
I just felt like a lot of people weren't really paying attention to the war. I didn't want to go to college and have to become and get a journalism degree. I saw Full Metal Jacket about 30 times, and I saw that the main character was a combat correspondent,
Mm.
which is what my job was in the Marines. And so I thought, if I join the Marines at 18, straight out of high school, they'll give me a camera and send me to war, and I can document the war.
When you, at the time, thought about Afghanistan and the theater and being there, what was your understanding of the sort of political interpretation of what was going on? Or did you have one? Does it even matter when you're in the role you were in?
It doesn't matter when you're institutionalized. Once you go through the basic training, the boot camp, they're just training you. They're brainwashing you to kill,
Mm.
and to not to have more fear of being a outlier, like an individual who's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, that outweighs the fear of death. So you're more afraid of letting your squad down than you are of dying, and that's how it's basically been like that. A kind of Stanford prison experiment that's been ongoing for I think since the dawn of war, maybe. But no, the politics didn't matter. A lot of kids, especially in the infantry, just wanted to shoot their guns, blow stuff up, kill people. I
Mm.
knew guys that joined who said that they just wanted to kill people and get away with it. So you do have kind of psychotic, psychopathic kids like that in the Marines, especially the Marine Corps infantry.
What percentage of the Marine Corps infantry do you think fit that category?
I I couldn't give you the percentage, but it's all group thing too, so it's hard to distinguish what's just being said because somebody else said it, and what's being said because they actually feel it.
Mm.
But I'd say a good 60% were not had no intention of helping the Afghan people. They
Right.
just wanted to go experience war.
Officially, what's the point of a combat photographer? Why is that something that the Marine Corps would want?
That's a good question. I still don't know, really. Basically, it was to sell the war to people back home. The fact that the idea that we were going to hand over the war to the Afghan army, and they
Hmm.
would be able to take on the Taliban without our support. So that was the main focus of my job, was to get imagery of the Afghan National Army working with Marines, taking the lead, etc. At the same time, they were totally, all of us were incompetent, but they were especially not trained and not prepared, and oftentimes were used as like dummy shields,
Hmm.
kind of. If we were to go into a house or clear a house, we the guys would put them in first in case there was a bomb, in case there was an IED,
Wow.
that kind of stuff. They were high most of the time. So yeah, I mean,
High on what?
so you have poppy everywhere. So you have hashish, opium, marijuana, etc.
Um, how specifically were you told what you should be documenting?
Hearts and minds. That I mean, that was a specific, like specifically that was the motto
Hmm.
Besides getting imagery of the Afghan army, working, it was hearts and minds, giving kids candy, that
Right.
Pete Buttigieg photo of the Afghan kid on his shoulders, that type of thing. They would just eat up. They love that stuff. They didn't want,
Interesting.
could not show Marines cursing, couldn't show them smoking cigarettes, and you couldn't show anyone dying or dead, which are three things that Marines do quite frequently in war. Uh, so it was hard. It was hard to edit around all that.
How frequently were you getting feedback from whoever about what it was that you were sending back and changes you should make or whatever?
Not frequently. No, I
Mm.
was so people think the military is this very organized, well-tuned machine that's kind of aware of everything, but it's incompetent, just like any kind of business or government organization. So I was free solo, like I was just bouncing around. I was moving around our area of operations, and there was no internet, so there was no one to contact me. There was no electricity, so we relied on generators to power our cameras. Um, and yeah, that was pretty much it. It wasn't until I filmed a Marine getting shot in the head and dying that I started getting a lot of emails from my combat camera commanding officer saying basically you have to get rid of that. You have to cut out every scene
Right.
of yeah.
So in Combat Obscura, you really, which is a documentary, by the way, that really, I call it sort of like immersive in what it is that combat photographers are doing and we're doing. One of the things about it is that there is no shortage of, I mean, I don't know what to call it. I don't know if the right word is inappropriate behavior or misconduct or stuff that you're not really supposed to be filming or promoting or whatever the case may be. Can you talk a little bit about, did you have some kind of an awakening or a point at which your views on what was going on in your role did a 180? Was there a definitive point at which something like that happened, or was it a process?
It was a process. So when I was filming those things, Marine smoking hash or acting war crimes and treating the Afghans as if they were props in a stage or something. Um, I, I I found those things to be funny because I was part of that institution. I was still institutionalized.
Mm.
It wasn't until I got out and went to college and started to feel some kind of moral guilt for what I had just taken part in, because the camera fuels their behavior. It's not like I was just fly on the wall.
Ah,
I was actively, promoting this behavior with the camera.
so there was
And
like a
so,
performative element to it.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. There is in every war. I
Hmm.
think it's a feedback loop of imagery and war movies and all that. But it wasn't until I went to college and stopped trying to meet like people's expectations of what the war was like, how soldiers behave in war, and really including everything, even the bad stuff. That it became very cathartic, and that wasn't until I'd been out for a few years.
Was there, or let me see how to ask this. What would surprise my viewers the most about the life of military personnel while they were serving in Afghanistan that is maybe just not known? Like, what would be the most, even if it's a mundane thing or not, what would be most surprising?
So I guess the most surprising thing would be the fact that we were living on the front lines, if you call it a front line. We were living. We would pay a family to leave their mud hut, their house, and we were living with the people in their
Mm.
houses. And I don't think that's seen. I don't think that's understood a lot. I think usually in most movies they're on a base, but we were in their houses, and we would basically just patrol around waiting to get shot or blown up, and we saw everybody as the enemy.
Hmm.
You know,
Even the people you were living with?
yeah, even
Wow.
even the Afghan army.
The Afghan army itself was seen as an enemy.
Yeah.
Why
It,
is that?
well, sometimes they would, join the Taliban. It was all gray. You
Yeah.
couldn't really tell what the hell was going on, and it was a mess. It was just a total. I can't believe it lasted 20 years. I just it just boggles my mind. I think the generals knew that it wasn't working. It didn't make any sense. We all certainly knew that it wasn't working. No one was surprised. None of the guys that I served with were surprised what happened during the pullout. You know,
I want to get to the pullout in a second. Was there any ability of individual Marines if they said, this is crazy, this makes no sense, I want to get out of here? What options existed for being able to pack it up and be sent home?
well, you have Bo Bergdahl. Bo
Right.
Bergdahl just left.
Yep.
That's one option. Other than that, you could claim that you were basically experiencing too much PTSD. Um, but it was a very long process. You could say you were a conscientious objector, but all these things required like multiple psychiatric evaluations to make sure it's a kind of catch 22 like situation still, where if you're too crazy, if you say you're crazy, then you're not crazy. You'd have to be
Right.
crazy to fight in a meaningless war. But if you do want to fight, then you are crazy. So like
Right.
it's a catch 22. Um, you also have to take into fact that, like I said, the institutionalization of the system, not wanting to be the outlier, not
Yeah.
wanting to be that guy. Yeah. Yeah.
With regard to the pullout, do you have an opinion about it? I mean, my view is the pullout would have been right whether it was Trump or Biden. It almost certainly would have been chaotic whether it was Trump or Biden, but I'm glad that it was done. What's your sense of it?
That's exactly my sense. I don't think there's a graceful way to lose a 20-year war. I think it was exactly like Vietnam. I think most Americans, especially on the right, were just upset by the optics
Mm,
of it, how it looked, you know? Nobody really gave a shit about Afghanistan for 20 years. That's how it was able to last that long, because we have an all volunteer army. There's no
right.
draft, so it's a very small percentage of people that are actually invested in the war. That's how it was able to last 20 years. What upset most Americans was the optics of the pullout. Seeing 12, it's like 12 Marine, I think 12 Marines died, right, during the pullout.
I
How many,
believe that's the number. Yeah.
yeah,
13, maybe.
how many Afghan civilians did we kill throughout that whole 20 years? How
Right.
many Marines died during that whole time? And it was just the hubris. It was American hubris finally coming to realization. Holy shit, we just we're running out of here like a dog with its tail between its legs after 20 years of fighting guys uh, who were wearing flip flops and using Soviet era, World War II era weapons, and the biggest military, the biggest military budget in the world, the biggest country with the biggest war machine, lost in such a disgraceful way. I think that's what really upset people. I
Mm,
don't think there was the only thing I would have done differently is just tried to get more Afghans out,
right.
and especially the interpreters and translators that worked with us.
Yep.
A lot of them were left behind. I lost a lot of friends because of that. But yeah, I think it was mostly the optics that offended people.
We've been speaking with Miles Lagoze, U.S. Marine veteran and author of the book Whistles from the Graveyard, My Time Behind the Camera on War, Rage, and Restless Youth in Afghanistan. Really appreciate your time and insights, Miles. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.